Do you have that one moment in life that you look back on and regret? I know I do. Let's talk about how we can learn and grow from our past regrets, whether they are big or small. I'm Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years I've helped hundreds of thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions for their everyday lives, and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And today I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today we're going to talk about regret. And regret is something that I kind of struggle with because while I don't think my life has been perfect and I've made all the best decisions at all the right times and all the right choices, I definitely have moments in my life. If I could go back, I would choose different options. And probably the biggest one that I have is I wonder what would have happened had I chosen a different career. And I love my career and I love my life. I struggle with regret a little bit because you can never know how things would have worked out. But when I was in college, I was being very influenced by the thoughts of my father and what my father's wishes were and what my father wanted me to do. I got a college scholarship offer going into college from a university called Norfolk State University, which is a historically black college in Virginia. And they wanted me to come down there and play baseball. And my dad said he knew someone graduated from Norfolk State University. He was an idiot, so he wasn't going to let any of his sons go to Norfolk State University, so I did not go. And I got a college degree and a master's degree and have gone on. But I sometimes look back and I wonder what would have happened had I put my foot down and pursued that baseball scholarship in Virginia. How would my life had ended up? Now, had I gone to Norfolk State University in Virginia, I wouldn't have the friends I have now. I wouldn't have the partner I have now. I very likely wouldn't have the life and career I have now, which I quite enjoy. I like my friends. I like my life. I like my career. And I wouldn't want to go back and undo any of that. But I think sometimes we have a super duper complicated relationship with the word regret. There are two things I want to say that regret can do for us. The first thing is with regret, you can become motivated. You know, if you have a missed opportunity, it can drive you into making sure you take advantage of other and all opportunities going forward. And I think the second thing that it can do is cause us to be grateful. Because I look back on that Norfolk State situation, and I'm aware, had I chosen to go to that university, I wouldn't have the friendships, the relationships, the memories, and the history that I have now, and I quite enjoy it. So it just makes me grateful just to how fragile human life is and how fragile decisions can be, right? It makes me so aware that at any given moment, I can make a decision that can have a drastic ripple effect on the rest of my life. So try not to regret things in that standard way, in like, I wish I had, or I missed this thing, or I wish I'd gone about this thing, and try to focus on being grateful. And if you miss an opportunity, great. Maybe that opportunity wasn't meant for you at that time. Maybe that's not where you were supposed to be. And allow it to drive you to take advantage of it. It was actually a better thing that I didn't get it because something even better was waiting down the road. So let's all make sure we have a healthy relationship with regret. So look, I want you guys to think about what are opportunities in your life that you regret, given the context in which we've been talking about today, and how can you use that to drive you going forward. Hey, thanks so much for being here today. If you wouldn't mind, please do me a huge favor. I'd love it if you shared this podcast on your social media platforms or with at least one person that you think could benefit from hearing this message today. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever. I'd really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'm about to tell you a story from my childhood of one of the most regretful experiences I had growing up and how I turned that experience into a life lesson and did not let it get me down. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions for their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And today I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today I want to tell you about my childhood and a crush on this girl that I had and how it has impacted my life. So this girl's name is Donna. Growing up, so let me tell you about Donna. When I was in high school or middle school even, I think I was in the 7th grade, 8th grade-ish, and my school had these dances. Like my school would sponsor these dance events. I had a crush on Donna, and Donna was like this beautiful girl, and a lot of guys in middle school had a crush on Donna, and Donna was just this phenomenal girl, still is. I mean, she's wonderful, and we're friends and all those things. But in high school and in middle school, Donna was somebody that everybody talked about and liked, and I liked her too. And at one of these dances, I found out that Donna liked me and I liked her, and I asked her if I could dance. And you guys have seen the dances where like your arms are extended as far as they can extend on her waist, and her arms are extended as far as as she could extend on your shoulders, and you're just swaying back and forth. It was that kind of thing in middle school. But we started to date, like, middle school dating experience. She was my first of a lot of things, first kiss, first, holding hands, walking to and from class, like all that kind of stuff, like appropriate, innocent, but crushing and in love as much as a middle schooler could be. And then we broke up. In going into high school, we broke up, and it was horrible. Like, it was an awful experience. It was my first breakup. It was just terrible. And all through high school, I wanted to, as I aged through high school and got later in high school, I wanted to ask Donna on a date. Now, at that time in my life, like, I was super shy and anxious and depressed and sad and all of these things. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it for fear of rejection and fear of humiliation and all of the insecurities that were driving me at that time. I just couldn't bring myself to approach Donna. And then after high school, some years go by, and I meet Donna again, and I ask her, like, we just start talking online, really. I don't know, I'm in my 20s at the time, I guess, in college, or just after college, actually. And I tell Donna that all through high school, I wished I had asked her on a date, and how I didn't have the courage to do it and all those things. And Donna told me that she thought the same thing about me, and she wished that I had asked her on a date. And if I had asked her on a date, she would have said yes. And I was like, damn, like, I missed an opportunity. Like, I had so much regret about allowing my fear and insecurities to guide my life and miss out on this opportunity to, date this really great girl through high school. Now, I'm going to tell you, my relationship with regret is not like most people, because I think everything happens for a reason, and I use the term regret kind of loosely, but I do, even now, I wish I had the courage to speak up and say what I want. And the lesson for me was never let yourself be held back from fear, never not pursue an opportunity, and never fear rejection. You'll never know unless you ask. You'll never know unless you try. You'll never know what could happen unless you try to make something happen. And I honestly carry that lesson into everything. And I remember in my 20s when I was having that conversation with Donna, just being like, you know what? I'm just going to try everything. The thought that had 15, 16-year-old Elliott asked Donna to go see a movie, she would have said yes. And then who knows what my high school years would have been like, and who knows how things would have transformed. But one thing I do know is I am never going to allow myself to miss out on an opportunity. I'm never going to allow myself to miss out on a moment. I'm never going to allow myself not to pursue something just because of fear of rejection, insecurities, all that stuff is not worth it. If you want something, go get it. And have the courage to live with whatever happens. I wish I had that in my teenage years, not just because of Dawn. I'm just using that as an example to express the mindset I had at the time. But I wish I had that mindset growing up, and I'm damn sure that I have that mindset now. I will take advantage of every opportunity. I will take advantage of everything in front of me. I will chase every goal that I have. I will pursue every dream. And the reason is because you never know what could be unless you pursue it. So I want you guys to think about the regrets that you've had in your life. I want you guys to think about what has held you back and what lessons have you learned from that, and how can you go forward pursuing and chasing your dreams. Hey, thanks for being here today. And if you wouldn't mind, please do me a huge favor and share this podcast on your social media platforms, or with at least one person that you think this message could make a difference for. And don't forget to subscribe. So head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. If you're a business owner like I am, then you know that running a business is not easy, and you can't avoid making mistakes. And in today's episode, I'm going to tell you about one of the mistakes that I learned from as a business owner and how I overcame it to achieve the success that I have today. And even if you're not a business owner, I think this lesson will definitely make a difference in your life as well. Hi, I'm Elliott Connie, And for over 15 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions for their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And today I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And I'm going to tell you the number one thing that I learned in as a business owner and growing a business. And here's what it is. I'm going to tell you the biggest mistake that I made, how I remedied that mistake, and how I've achieved the successes that I have today. And this might sound crazy, but the biggest mistake and the biggest regret I have is from the onset of my business, not dreaming as big as I possibly could, not creating exactly what I wanted to create. You know, if you had asked me coming out of graduate school what my biggest dream was possible, I would have told you that I wanted to build a therapy practice. And in fact, I would have told you even before that, I would have told you I wanted to get a job as a psychotherapist. That was like my biggest dream, the biggest thing I wanted to achieve. And then what ended up happening was I would get to the aim, I would get to the thing that I wanted to do, and then kind of redream. And I'd be like, ooh, now I want my own practice. Now I want to write a book. Now I want to give lectures. Now I want to give lots of lectures. And I think back and I wish that I knew anything that I could dream and or think of was possible. Like if I go back to the beginning of my business journey, back to like 2006, 2007, I wish I could tell that version of Elliott Connie that anything you want to achieve and anything you can dream is accessible. I think too often we just dream too small. And we do that because of our insecurities or our fears or our hesitations or just our own blindness to the possibilities that lay in front of us. And if there was one thing that I wish I had known going all the way back to the beginning was anything I wanted was within my reach. If I was willing to work hard enough, and if I was willing to be bold enough, and if I was willing to be brave enough to pursue it. See, these days, dreaming is actually a huge part of my business life and my business strategies. And I truly believe that you could like speak things into existence. I could truly believe that you could, if you believe it so strongly and you believe it with so much conviction, if you can like manifest it. And I'll be honest, I didn't know that in 2006 and 2007. And my goals were kind of short-sighted. And my goals were like, I believed in the idea of like, I want to set achievable goals. So I would shrink my goals to make them achievable. And I had people that would promote that idea to me. There were people in my life that would say how important it was that you set small and achievable goals. Like that was the thing that people said, set small and achievable goals. And the number one lesson I wish I had known that all goals are achievable. I sit now in the professional life that I live, and I'm at the very top of the psychotherapy field, and I travel around the world doing and teaching psychotherapy things, and I write books, and I'm working on TV projects, and all of these things are going on. And it's so far beyond what I thought I could do. Somebody asked me the other day if your life is what you dreamt it would be, and I thought about that for a second, and I thought, no. I'm so far beyond where I thought I could be that every day is kind of like surreal. And that's the one lesson I learned is like all of the dreams, all of the thoughts, all of the hopes that you have are achievable if you're bold enough to believe in yourself. You can actually manifest them. And that's the lesson there. And it doesn't matter whether it's a professional goal or a family goal or athletic goal or a fitness goal or a health goal or an educational goal. It doesn't matter what it is. I want everybody who can hear this to recognize anything you want to achieve is within your grasp if you're bold enough to reach for it. I don't think I was reaching far enough in 2006, 2007. And I had to learn how to reach at every iteration. And I want everybody out there to reach as far as you possibly can and do it with the knowledge that you can grab whatever it is you are reaching for. So listen, I want you to think of what's like if nothing was impossible, if anything you wanted to achieve was doable, what's the first thing you would do differently to start moving your life in that direction? So thanks for being here, everybody. If you wouldn't mind, please do me a huge favor and share this podcast on your social media platforms or with at least one person that you think would enjoy this message and this message could make a difference for. And don't forget to subscribe, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So do you guys remember, I'm a huge Marvel fan, and you guys remember when Spider-Man had his identity revealed and he had to have Doctor Strange help him to fix that mistake and almost ruined everything, literally almost ruined eternity, almost ruined the universe, the multiverse, in fact. Spider-Man had a lot of regrets, and we have a lot of regrets too. And there's one lesson from watching that movie and watching him go through that I want to share with you guys here today. I'm Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions for their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And today I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And let's get into it. That watching Spider-Man go through that, I got the amazing opportunity to watch that movie, the newest Spider-Man movie. And I should also say, spoiler alert, if you have not seen the new Spider-Man movie, if you're one of the few people who haven't, because it seems like Earth has seen it already, if you have not seen the new Spider-Man movie, you might want to turn it off now, because I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened in the movie. And I had this amazing opportunity to watch it in Los Angeles in the Chinese theater. I didn't even know the Chinese theater was a movie theater, which is silly because LA is a town of movies. I thought the Chinese theater was like a Broadway kind of a theater. But anyway, I walked up to the theater. Me and my business partner, actually, when we were in Los Angeles working on some stuff, got the chance to go and watch the movie. And that theater is epically beautiful. And I was watching the movie, watching Spider-Man do his thing. And he made a mistake. He made a huge, colossal mistake by trying to correct another mistake. And it was like one mistake trying to correct it turned into thousands of mistakes that had huge, catastrophic impact on everyone, really. And then he came to a point where he had to make a huge sacrifice. Came to a point where he had to make a decision that would literally cost him everything and everyone he knew. And I was sitting and watching that, and I was just thinking, man, what a powerful lesson that is. Now, listen, I'm not in any way saying that the lesson is that you're going to make mistakes that cost you everyone and everything in your life. But I am saying sometimes if you make a mistake, you have to live with the consequences of that mistake. And correcting the mistake is going to require personal sacrifice. Sometimes if you make a mistake, you have to live with, you've made a mistake, and you now have to correct that mistake. And correcting that mistake may cause you to have to give up something. Correcting that mistake may cause you to have to sacrifice something. Correcting that mistake will cause you to have to lose something. And in this case of Peter Parker, the alter ego of Spider-Man, he lost everything and everyone in his life. And we've all been in those positions. I have been in positions where I've made mistakes, and the only way to correct that mistake is to accept I'm going to have to sacrifice. And on some level, I'm going to be uncomfortable. And on some level, I'm going to have to live with the reality, at least for a period of time, that I don't want to. On some level, I have to give up something I want so I can correct the mistake that I've made. And we all make them. No one goes through this world without making mistakes. And sometimes they're super little mistakes. You make a mistake in a class and you fail a test. I remember I bombed a test when I was in undergrad taking math class, and I bombed a test, bombed it real bad. And I had to fix that. And that meant I had to spend a lot of time working on my math skills and remedying my math skills, getting tutoring every single day. So while my friends were going to the cafeteria and hanging out and playing video games and doing these other things, I had to go and work on my math skills and the math side. You have to sacrifice something to get the ultimate something that you want, which for me was to pass this math course so I can get a college degree. And other times they're bigger mistakes in life. But sometimes the only way to correct something you regret is to accept I'm going to have to do something hard that I don't want to do, that's going to make me uncomfortable, that's going to be unpleasant, but it's the only way to set a wrong right. It's the only way to make something right happen. And I think that lesson was full on display during the Spider-Man movies. One of my favorite things about these movies is the lessons they contain. Like, I think the movies are amazing. And while I was sitting in the Chinese theater in LA watching that movie, that's what I thought. So anyway, I want you to think, what have you learned from watching other people correct regrets? Like, what is it that you have gotten from watching other people correct mistakes in their lives? It's an interesting thing to think about. I think it's an important thing to think about, and I think it matters. So thanks so much for being here today. If you wouldn't mind, please do me a super huge favor and share this podcast on your social media platforms or with at least one person that you think could benefit from hearing this message today. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast, and I will see you tomorrow. Do you ever feel stupid when you make a mistake? Do you ever feel like you're the biggest idiot in the world? Well, trust me, you are not alone. Regrets are inevitable, but it is possible to reframe them in such a way that it helps shift your perspective and continue moving you toward success. So let's take a few minutes to explore this and how exactly you can do this in your life. I'm Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions for their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And today I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today we're going to keep talking about regret. Now, I have seen tens of thousands of clients in my career. And also in my own life, regret is a thing that is a really, really hard thing to overcome. And I would honestly say that regret might be the biggest thing that drives people into therapy, because regret is often associated with the loss of time when you lose something that you cannot get back. Like, I saw a client recently, and he is in his early 50s. And he's in his early 50s, and a lot of his friends are doing things like investing in Bitcoin and like retiring early. And this man is like way regretful. Like, some of his friends got in on Bitcoin 5 or 6 years ago. And I mean, none of them that I know of are like super duper rich because they did it, but they have accrued enough wealth that they're able to retire early. So now he's looking around at his life and he's like, I'm 50 years old, and because I made these stupid choices, I still have to work. And some of my friends are now able to retire, and how much he would want to retire, and didn't do the things that his friends did. Now, over the course of these conversations, he had to realize two really important things. Never compare yourself to someone else, because when they were able to do what they were doing, that was them. That's their life. That's their resources. That's their skills. That's their time. That's their whatever it is. And when he was making the choices he was making, he had to do what was right for him. Now, the reason he didn't make this choice is because he has a child that is disabled. This child was born with some struggles and some difficulties, and he's going to have to care for this child throughout the child's life cycle. And the child is now in their late teens. And he wasn't comfortable risking his money on this unknown thing called Bitcoin, because he's going to have to take care of this child, the child's entire life. This child will never be able to live on their oldest. I keep saying child, but this person's kid, who's now in their late teens, is never going to be able to live on their own. But the other people had money to play with, because eventually their children would like age out of the house and go live independent lives and go be in college and go do whatever. But this guy, him and his wife have to like make decisions that are different because their circumstances are different. And then all of a sudden he started recognizing that his decision not to pursue Bitcoin was an act of love towards his child. And once he started to perceive this as an act of love towards his child, because he wasn't willing to risk the money that he's going to need to take care of his child throughout the child's life cycle, he all of a sudden didn't feel regret. Once he started seeing it as an act of love, he felt like a better father. And once he started viewing it that way, the whole thing changed and the pain went away. So regret is a difficult thing to deal with. And sometimes the best way to deal with it is to just change the way in which you're looking at it. Now, it would be really easy to feel regretful, like, oh, if I'd invested in that Bitcoin, I would have $10 bazillion and I'd have a yacht and all those things. But imagine if you had invested in Bitcoin and it lost money, which some people did, by the way, there's no guarantee. It lost money, and all of a sudden he doesn't have the money to take care of his child. How would he feel then? And now this is just kind of like a sacrifice he made in the direction of being a good father. And being a good father, being a good mother requires making sacrifices. And in that moment, you could watch the shift happen where he thought, holy cow, it's an act of love that I didn't risk this money. And it changed everything in the way he perceived his own choices. And I think that's the important thing is give yourself grace. Don't compare yourself to other people because your circumstances are not the same as their circumstances. And always, always, always assume the best in your actions. And just like everyone else, nobody gets out of this life without it having some bit of regret. So I want you guys to think about what are some choices you've made in your past that may have been hard that you can now look back on and realize because I made this choice, I can now view it this way, right? Because I made that choice, I can now kind of shift my perspective and think about it in a way that makes a difference for me now in a positive way. Hey, thanks so much for being here today. Please do me a huge favor and share this podcast on your social media platforms. I'd love for it to grow, and I can't do that without your help. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast and subscribe. And I can't wait to see you on Monday.